Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm Sal Internado here. We're back. Army's got a postseason bowl game now. Liberty. They're going to the Liberty Bowl. I'm here with Dan Cabaza of As for Football, covers Army football very well for that website. I'm here with a regular here, Jim Zopoulos, and we're going to discuss the big news today. I mean, it started last night, and it was a kind of a whirlwind media tour by Jeff Monken today, and it ends up with Army playing West Virginia, a Power 5 team in the Liberty Bowl, a place where Army hasn't been, and it's a really good opportunity for Army, no doubt. Things worked out pretty well for the Black Knights. First, if you want to follow us on social media, we have Black Knight Nation on Twitter, and now we just today big thing for this podcast. We are now going to be on Apple Podcasts.
Hey.
Yeah, under Black Knight Nation. We're getting there, Dan. We're getting there, So
that's awesome. Good for you, Sal. That's awesome.
Yeah, so please subscribe and follow us and give us. We have a YouTube channel too, Black Knight Nation. Please subscribe to that. These videos are live on there too. So just wanted to get the promos out there, and now we'll get right back. We'll get right at the news, guys. I mean, not too surprised that Army's going to play in a postseason game, but for it to happen today is certainly a good sign, right? Because as things dragged on yesterday, it wasn't good news. So you wanted to get the news pretty much as soon as possible that they were going to have a destination for that 12th game. And just your thoughts, your initial thoughts. First, we'll start with Dan on the initial thoughts of the breaking news.
I'm glad it happened today. My sense is that if it didn't happen today or tomorrow, it wasn't going to happen at all. And, talking about Jeff Monken's whirlwind press tour, I think he had to put a lot of pressure out there because the reality is nobody wants to play the triple option on a short schedule. So if they were going to play somebody with less than a week prep, it had to be impossible for them to say no. My sense is, people have watched Air Force run for 400 plus yards weeks and weeks and weeks in a row, and then they come to Mikey Stadium and they don't even get 150, 160. So nobody wants that smoke. They just didn't want it. Even good teams didn't want it. And so, yeah, you got to put it out there that make it hard to say no, which they did. And that's awesome.
Jim, your thoughts on the news?
Well, 24 hours ago is a little more strung, tighter. And I think today it was big relief. And within an hour before us even coming on here, and I'm sure Dan covered it early on his podcast, but the fact is that when things moved around, when we got the initial news and indicator that Tennessee had COVID issues, that was the opening we needed. We'd already determined that there was an odd number of football teams out there to play the bowl season. And so realistically, the biggest thing we needed was somebody to drop out. Now, I was looking for warmer locations like you were, Florida, of course, but the Liberty Bowl was a fantastic bowl, very prestigious, historic bowl. In Memphis, Tennessee, I think deserves to see your All-American team. This is America's team is Army football. I think we've really grown into there. I think that we've really evolved. Again, this past decade has been really special. Coach Monken has done a tremendous job, and seeing what we did to maneuver around and behind the curtains, once again, to have Mike Buddy and Bob Beretta really working the phones, really taking care of how do we get Coach Monken out in front, and just explain the situation, not necessarily always stating our case, but explaining the conditions we were at and showing how worthy we were to be in a bowl game.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course, last night I said, hey, let's play in Florida. Let's play in some place warm. But honestly, I think that this is a better alternative for Army than the Armed Forces Bowl. I know the Armed Forces Bowl's played in Fort Worth. That's a recruiting hotbed for Army. I get it, but it's good to move around a little bit and play somewhere different. And like you said, Jim, give somewhere else in the country a chance to see Army play. I think and the matchup is a little bit more intriguing to me with West Virginia than it would be possibly with Tulsa or who knows. I guess what would have happened is maybe Mississippi State could have moved to the Liberty Bowl, leaving the Armed Forces Bowl open, right, Dan? I guess that could have happened. Theoretically.
Well, I was expecting that, to be honest with you. I guess I'm always just looking for the mercenary capitalists to take over and take as much money as they can. I don't know how much $4 million or $2 million payout, whatever. I don't know how much difference that makes to Mississippi State's athletic department, but I know how much it makes to Army's athletic department. There's only 50,000 West Point graduates, and anything that they don't make in ticket sales, somebody's got to fork over. There's it's not like there's a gazillion of us to write checks. Army needed the money. That's good.
Yeah, that's a great point. To look at it that way, what if they stayed home and they weren't given this opportunity? Then it's a loss. Of, no joke. And right now, revenue is important to Army. You see, they have made staff cuts over the last month, and lost a couple good people too. So I mean, it's great now. As far as the day unfolding, I mean, when you see Jeff Monken go on, he was on Sirius XM Full Ride, then Dan Patrick, then Rich Eisen. I mean, the message was the same, and he really kind of painted the picture of last night, telling the players what was up, and the players. I mean, I had an Army football grad text me. Good for the players that they want to do this. Of course they want to do this, right, guys? I mean, was there any other option for these players? That's what they were going to do. I mean, they want to play. They want one more game in the Army uniform, this senior class that has a chance to make more history. Look, they're the first senior class to win 3 Commander-in-Chief's trophies in Army football history. So I mean, and they're the winningest senior class in Army football history. I mean, I didn't think there was you didn't think that really the players would go any other way, and with staying around or going home, and then maybe even possibly coming back for a bowl game.
There was absolutely no doubt whatsoever in my mind that for the Army football players, they were going to prepare, they were going to stay, and they definitely wanted to be all in. Very much unlike the Pac-12. USC went from going to talking themselves up into national championship and playoff contention to taking a complete miss. UCLA on a rebuild year had the chance to go 500 above. They took a knee. Stanford, really good finish against UCLA, had the opportunity to come down and face us, took a knee. Arizona State, and I was very surprised about Herm Edwards, who I revere as a coach, and I think that would have been, if any, the team we could have possibly faced. Arizona State coming out and saying, listen, men, you can learn from these other men. I thought that was a perfect leadership opportunity for Herm Edwards, and I was actually kind of shocked to see them pull out of the bowl contention even when they reached 500 level.
I just don't think he wanted to get beat that bad. My sense is that Arizona State team is not very good. And, you can get beat by Army and it's okay. But if you get smoked like Houston did a couple years ago, that can cause problems.
Well, to me, is finishing the last 2 games on and up. And that's why I thought Arizona State leading into it with a lot of momentum, beating their rival, hanging 70 points on Arizona, closing out an Arizona State team that upset Oregon, realistically, or Oregon State per se. But really, I thought leaning into it, there was a little bit momentum. And again, his exposure for a recruiting class, and he's still building on to a relatively new program in the way he does stuff down in Tempe.
Yeah, I think that last night, Connor, Crean, and you were spot on with these teams, and even Dan saying it today. They just don't want to prepare against this Army offense. They just don't want to prepare. And I think it's just as much. I said last night, it's just as much as the defense. This defense has been really good this year. They've been really stingy, and it's hard to score on this defense. Whether you're from, Cincinnati had problems scoring against this defense for 3.5 quarters. So and they're a top 10 team, probably should be a top 5 team. So, I mean, I think that you guys were spot on with that. And now if we can look forward to the West Virginia matchup, I know it's pretty fresh in the mind, but how you guys see that kind of unfolding, so to speak. I know West Virginia, they're 5-4, but 3 of those losses, I believe, are to ranked teams. They play the Big 12 schedule, and then some people say the Big 12 is down maybe this year. But what do you think about the matchup with West Virginia?
I think it's tough. I was looking at it right before we came on. Their quarterback, whose name I haven't learned yet, he's almost a 65% completion passer. They're giving up just 3.6 yards per carry. You look at the teams Army has struggled with historically, teams that are very stingy against the run, and especially this year, quarterbacks that can be highly accurate from the pocket. Army's defense has been pretty good about stopping the run against almost everybody, even Cincinnati, who's, a very good running football team. But when a quarterback can make those accurate throws from the pocket, they've been able to dink and dunk down the field against Army. And I don't think that there's any good defense against this. I mean, we play a bend but don't break defense for a reason.
Dan, to your point, I think the matchups are very difficult in this one, and I would almost throw the record almost completely out against West Virginia. You have Dante and Darius Stills, and those are the run stoppers. Talk about filling up a defensive line with two people. You got two brothers in the interior, 55 and 56. Watch them. You have a highly active and fast sideline linebacker in Tony Fields. Tony Fields has a sack. He's got an interception, 88 total tackles this year. So from that, a highly active defense against an option offense, to me, it almost favors West Virginia. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think it really kind of it feels a little bit like the defensive front that Tulane set up. Tulane is big and they're very quick inside, and that gave us a lot of problems. So that inside follow, it's going to be met with very, very heavy resistance. On the offensive side of the balls, I think that Jarrett Dagey, over 2,400 yards, throws very efficiently, as you mentioned, well over 65%. To me, is he has an even pass distribution. A total of 15 different wide receivers have caught a ball this year. And again, he's an athletic guy. He actually had the double pass in the Texas game. I don't know if you saw that clip earlier, but it was on the highlight. Tipped the ball back to himself, grabs the ball. Sure, let's go ahead and throw it downfield again. So to me, he's going to present some challenges. Mobile quarterbacks do, allowing himself a little bit extra time more to throw the ball downfield. Always, you break down any pass coverage, and as good as we've been, that's just going to present a little bit of trouble for our defense.
If you're watching right now and like to send us some questions to answer, have any comments, or you're just ecstatic that Army's got their 12th game in their bowl game, please send them along. We'll post them and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. Yeah, I look at like what the West Virginia, and you're right, Jim. It may be a lot like Tulane, and we still don't know. We didn't know on Saturday that Army had all these guys that were going to be not dressing for the Air Force game, and now at least it gives you right. The game's on December 31st, so now maybe it gives those guys a little bit more time to possibly be cleared and get back into the game, at the bowl game, return to the bowl game. I think that's maybe you don't think about that when you hear this bowl. You're just ecstatic that, hey, they're playing. But if they were playing like if we're gonna play in the Independence Bowl, how many of those guys would they have back? How many more might they be missing? So I think that's something that's also pretty key to have it. I don't know what you guys think about the New Year's Eve day. I mean, people are around watching football that day, no doubt, right? I mean, so I think that's a good day to have a good date too for them for exposure.
I think the New Year's Eve is terrific. It's at 4 p.m. That's awesome. I think 99% of football fans who want to be in front of a TV will be. Not to mention the fact that I don't know how much of America is going to go out for New Year's Eve this year. So I think it's a great date. I think it's a great opponent. After all this hubbub in the national news media, I think you're liable to get a hell of a lot of eyeballs, which is probably what the Liberty Bowl people want too.
I think there's going to be a little bit of mix in person. Not sure of the total attendance going to be allowed for that football game. I'm not sure if it's 15% or 20% in person, but I'd have to agree with Dan in saying that it's going to be a stay-at-home. December 31st is an absolutely great time to watch football, in my opinion. I'm going to be locked in front of the television for at least 2 straight days, pinned down. 4 o'clock is also great. I love the 4 o'clock spot. Yeah. I think it's really fantastic. The exposure is going to be great. So there's a lot of good as far as the timing. The one question mark I had, and Dan, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I'm not 100% sure as far as how the Christmas timeline is going to line up. I think that Nick Saban runs a different program, obviously, than we do. He's got a 3-day kind of furlough program for his football players to come back and return to Tuscaloosa. I'm wondering if we're going to have something similar. The problem that we have is we're not as regionalized in the Southeast as Alabama. I think we have kids that are, across all 50 states, and it's going to be very difficult to travel. So I'm pretty, interested to see how that timeline is going to shape up for our prep for the Liberty Bowl.
Well, before this happened, I would have told you that I think Army likes having the right around Christmas Bowl, that 26th, 23rd. I don't think it's an accident that you've seen a lot of bowl games kind of in that same week, in that same general timeline. So I don't think that the 31st is probably the first choice of all those kids who've been at West Point since May. I strongly doubt that it is, but hey, they're gonna do it. And listen, it's one Christmas, and then they'll have these lifetime memories forever. And I doubt anybody's going to look back on it as a bad experience. It's just one of those things that they're going to be at West Point probably for the holidays with their teammates.
Yeah, I think Connor talked about this last night, where Army bowl games in their last 3 bowl games have been, pretty entertaining and have drawn pretty good numbers. And, attendance is different in 2020 now, where you're only allowed a certain percentage, but usually they've been pretty well viewed. So I think that they're, and now adding to all this, like you said, national media hype, I think this could be a game that people are really going to look forward to. And it's a chance for Army to kind of prove itself that maybe it belongs in the top 25 to end the season. I mean, this is the opportunity that they're right on the cusp of the college and AP polls, right there at 27, and a win over West Virginia probably would get them finished in the top 25, and that would be a 10-win season. And wow, we talked about this last night. I mean, just from when you're in the summer thinking, who knows what the schedule is going to look like, to a 10-win season and maybe in the top 25, could you have asked it? And the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, of course. We've asked for anything more from the season, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the Pac-12, I was looking forward to the conference matchup. So the Big 12 is even a better matchup for us. I think it's a stronger conference. It has that marquee kind of reputation. Big 12 is sending Oklahoma to a great bowl matchup, I'm pretty sure, with Florida. So for us to be able to take on a Big 12 team on December 31st. Again, I think it's a lot of great exposures on the way. And as much as we've talked about, we're not going to get into a bowl over the last 24 hours. I think we've drawn more attention to ourselves. Now it's time to perform.
Yeah, back it up, right? And I mean, like I said before, we just don't know which players are going to show up for this game and who's going to be in the lineup. But I mean, if Army's shown anything this season, it's shown that they're a pretty deep team. And Jeff Monken says they might not, and he says this every year, right? When Army wins, we're not the most talented team, but this is my best team. He says that a lot, but maybe this season, maybe it holds true considering everything that the team's been through the coronavirus pandemic. And maybe you look at their team, their senior class is not really filled with guys, superstars. They just show up every game, like the Mike Johnsons and the John Ratigans show up every game, and then Mike Johnson knocks down has double digit pancakes almost every game. And we know the season Ratigan's had. So I mean this is certainly the opportunity's there now, and now it's just practice and prepare and go out there and they're 3-0 and Jeff Monken are in bowl games. So let's see if they can pull off the 4th.
I do think it's worth pointing out the amount of young, very talented kids that they've got. He always says, our team doesn't have any talent or whatever, but he's got a lot of kids on there now that turn down offers other places that 5 years ago, that isn't what they had going on. Yeah. And, that class that graduated with 2018, I remember when they got recruited, and, that was the first big full Monken era class. And it was great, and it was kind of like a watershed in terms of the amount of talent that they brought into the program. But there still weren't that many kids that were declining offers from, legitimate football schools. And now you're definitely seeing that. Anthony Atkins turning down opportunity to walk on at at Louisville, and some other guys like that legitimate athletes. He's got a good amount of talent. I don't think he's got as much talent as West Virginia, but the Army team is getting better. And, just look at the advantage that they have on special teams now over Navy and Air Force, when you never saw an advantage on special teams by the Black Knights. You never saw that. That's 100% because of the depth and the number of athletes on the roster.
I like the fact that you said special teams, and I'll shift that way for a little bit. We're ball hungry. We like to play kicks. We like to force the action. To me, pointing that statistic out a little bit, West Virginia has 3 scoring kickers on the roster. Now, they're perfect on the extra point side, but they're not perfect on the field goal side. There's one of the kickers, you have Evan Staley, 6 of 9. You have Casey Legg, 5 of 7. And then you have Tyler Sumter, 2 for 2. So it's a mixed bag as far as there's a big difference between extra points and field goals in close games, which I think it's going to be another fist fight. It's going to be very that field goal kicking position, whoever it's going to be, maybe they've seen us try and go after some kicks. Maybe they're going to, overcompensate for what they have to do in order to preserve 3 points at a time. But to me, special teams is going to be a huge factor. I'd love to see Tyrell Robinson get out in open field, get something that he can return. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but that's one thing. One-on-one, open field, open space. I think that is a big check mark for us on special teams.
Great points about special teams, because now, Dan and Jim, in the past, Jeff Monken was going for it a lot on fourth down when they were kind of in the red zone, so to speak, or maybe outside the 20, right? He'd go for it. He didn't have a lot of confidence in his kicker. And now it seems like with freshman Quinn Moretzky, he went out there, he's going out there and trotting them in the Commander-in-Chief's trophy games instead of going for it. Now, maybe down and distance was a little, analytics didn't agree with the down and distance and stuff like that. But, now he has confidence. It seems like Moretzky is going to be a good one, no doubt. And you look at, the seven blocks of kicks in during the season. Maybe we'll see Andre Carter back for this bowl game. He didn't play against Air Force. He's a factor on special teams and on defense. So sophomore,
Yeah. And a huge kid. Like, he's an enormous human being. And, that's just not something you'd seen from Army in the past, is that they would have this enormous kid capable of playing, who knows how many positions, making plays, and he's buried on special teams as a yearling. Like, that's just the depth of the team. We didn't see that 5 years ago.
6'6", right? He's like 6'6". I don't know what they list him at. He's got to be at least 250, I would think, And it's just, what? Real quickly, if we're touching on the team, I like to mention Markell Broughton, because this is a kid who's a sophomore who's jumped right into the starting lineup. And you know what? Yeah, you have your captains. You have Sandon McCoy, Mike Johnson, Amadeo West. Amadeo West, no doubt. And all those three guys are leaders. But to have a sophomore with the voice of Markell Broughton during practices and on the field, that guy has just really, I think, has been a real part of this kind of renaissance on defense. Yeah, Nate Woody's been great, first-year coordinator. John Ratigan's had a nice breakout season. We knew what we were getting with Eric Smith, right? We knew what we were getting with Eric Smith. But what was going to happen with the secondary? Because, when you lose a guy like Jalen McClinton, you lose, and Elijah Riley in that secondary, you lose some guys that have played in forever, 4-year guys. And, man, Cedric Cunningham's been excellent too. Let's not, Cedric Cunningham's been excellent. But I think Markell Broughton, on and off the field, I think I give him a lot of credit for the defense. And under sophomore, who no doubt, I think he has a chance to be a 2-year captain in his last 2 years, because his teammates just gravitate to him. You just can see it in videos and during games. And I just wanted to mention him, because we haven't really talked individually a lot on this podcast yet. So I figured give him a mention. Now, real quick, are we done talking bowls? Are we done talking this matchup, guys? Or you have anything else to add?
It'll be a great game, but I haven't really looked at it yet. I'm definitely not ready to break it down in any detail. I'm excited about it, but I don't think I have anything to add.
You don't have a prediction yet, Dan? You don't have a prediction? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, I got to look at it briefly, Dan, to tell you the truth. And again, not in depth like you said. Both teams are very ball disciplined. I think both teams like to control the ball. West Virginia controls the ball on average about 32 minutes per game. We're sticking at that 34 minutes per game. I think that's going to be critical early. To me, the Stills brothers are very good. However, if we can get on them early and take those 16 play drives to them early, I think it'll wear them out a little bit. They're not used to that. The Big 12 likes to move the ball. They're shorter drives. You're not on the field that long. And so realistically, this is a totally different ball control offense that they've seen all season. And I think that is going to really that's our advantage. If we can get the ball moving 3-4 yards at a time, hang on to the ball 10+ play drives, I think we got a real shot here to wear down that defense. And again, it's brand new. West Virginia doesn't play against triple option. A lot of teams don't. And so offense is really my key to overall. I think the last 2 games, Navy and Air Force, I've been solely focused on the defense and how we can control to get the ball back to the offense. I think it's flipped this way. I think we need to control the ball against a really balanced offense in West Virginia. And I think we can beat them. It'll be close. But if we stick to our plan shake it up a little bit. I'd love to see to get the ball outside as much as possible, just a little bit more, but pound away. We're going to have our stable of fullbacks back, and we also have a stable of quarterbacks as running backs. So in a sense, is we have 9 to 10 interchangeable parts in our backfield. I think we're going to be fresh, ready to go, and pound the ball.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Oh yeah, well I guess just to follow up with that, my message to every West Virginia defensive player is to think of Ed Oliver. He opted out of the bowl game with Houston and was a first-round pick. So if you're a West Virginia defensive player and you're a senior, there's nothing to be gained by playing Army. You go get ready for the draft.
I just got a message from an Army fan who has talked to somebody at West Virginia, and he mentioned that might be the case. Some guys might opt out of this game now, and some of the guys who have NFL, who can be NFL draft picks might opt out of this game.
Yeah, I think the Stills brothers, whether it's a junior and a senior, to go out and be drafted in the same draft, I think that would be wonderful, Dan. How about you?
Well, I mean, just think of the business decision. You either opt out and go into the draft, or you have Mike Johnson, future infantry officer, dive at your knees for 3 hours. And then maybe you don't even get drafted. I don't know. I just think it's dangerous. It's dangerous to play the triple option. I would be scared.
It is. Thank you for being responsible, Dan.
Yeah. Just trying to help.
Yeah,
business decision. Think of yourself.
Just touching on the quarterback situation now real quick. I mean, now with Christian Anderson's performance against Air Force, now that's another person that West Virginia's defense will have to be. We don't know if Tyler will play in the bowl game. I think he tweeted out that he's okay, he feels fine. Still will probably have to get cleared. I'm not sure what happened to him because we could speculate that maybe he got his bell rung. But now Christian Anderson, man, great performance against Air Force, stepped right in, kind of an experienced type guy, and another person that West Virginia certainly has to worry about.
Yeah, definitely. Whoever they put out there, I hope that they'll run some more honest read option plays and not just call everything from the sidelines, because I think they're going to have to take more chances to score more points in this game.
I think the follow was lined up pretty well against Air Force and Navy. I think it'll shake up in more of a true read, like you said.
Yeah,
more of an honest triple option to provide more ability. I think you'll see more trap. Hopefully not with Robinson in the middle. Hopefully with a bigger wing back up in the middle.
Yeah, I'd like to see the trap with Anthony Adkins. Especially if they gave an option to Tyler, somebody who's got good speed, and then you give it to Adkins on some kind of counter play. I'd like to see them do more of that, but obviously they have to give the quarterback the decision to, the ability to make that decision, because at least against Navy and Air Force, it felt like those defenses, after a while, sort of felt what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to get more creative against West Virginia, no doubt. And I don't know. And we talked about this. We talked about this in the Air Force review. Robinson needs to be in space. Period. Running him up the middle I don't think it does much. And they have to get him the ball. Period. I mean, I know that in the past this offense might not have utilized its slot backs to their capabilities. You look at Kel Walker for example. And I think you got to get Robinson the ball. We've talked about it. It's just Jim. It's a topic that we've talked about the last 2 nights. So we're not going to burn that out. Let's just get to a couple topics real quick, and we'll get out of here. First off, today I think it came out today where the coaches top 25 poll, they revealed the polls of each coach, and you saw that Army who holds Army in high regard and who doesn't hold Army in high regard. And was I a little shocked to see Ken Niumatalolo not put Army in his top 25? A little. Was I shocked to see Troy Calhoun not put Army in the top 25? Absolutely not. I don't think if we went over all Troy Calhoun's ballots, would he ever put Army in the top 25? Unlikely. What did you guys take from that today? Anything did you take from that?
If I'm Ken, I don't think I've got a good team. I mean, he's got to know that he doesn't have a good team this year, right? They're 3-7, and absent one superstar player last year, it's been a while since they have had a good season, right? And so he's thinking, I almost beat Army in their building. How can they be a top 25 team? So I guess I'll defend him.
Okay.
I personally think that the layoff they had in the middle of the season that let them reset their defense was like a watershed event in their season. But yeah, if I'm Coach Ken, I think that's an easy decision to make. Besides, screw those guys, right? I mean, it's not like we're buddies.
Well, for us to lose BYU off the schedule, to Oklahoma off the schedule, I think, we just were out of sorts. Tulane was one of those stinker games that, to me, you just got to throw away. So there's a couple of data points in there in my gut feeling, as an Army football fan, former Army football player, I hate to be ranked before the end of the year. I don't like to be ranked. I love to be the underdog. I love to be under the radar. So to me, is hanging around 25. I think 25 would have been appropriate. To say 27, okay, a couple spots here or there didn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, and then we had Pro Football Focus College. They put out their All-American list today, and John Ratigan, senior linebacker, was a third-team All-American, and Mike Johnson, I missed it. Mike Johnson, honorable mention as a left guard, and that means they rate or grade Mike Johnson as one of the top 4 left guards in the country, and that's pretty big. I mean, Mike, talking about a guy who tore his ACL after his freshman year and fought back to, I think he had a couple other injuries too that he battled through, and he's probably playing banged up this year too. And it's a great honor for both of those players, guys who have really put in the work to get to where they are, and are totally, to me, completely deserving of those honors. People might say, "Oh, here we go," it's Army. No, these guys are good football players, and I talked about this on the podcast before. I think John Ratigan has a chance to play at the next level. I do. I mean, I and Mike Johnson. I'm sure you said, Dan, he's the future infantry officer. He's already a second lieutenant in the Army. So, but I mean, it's got to be a nice, just good recognition for this program.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I don't know what I have to add. I'm definitely not the guy who's going to sit down and break down film of the offensive line and have an opinion about how the guards are playing. But definitely, it's an honor, and it's awesome to see these guys getting that recognition.
I think the one thing is, I sometimes selfishly I do break down the offensive line because I have a lot of friends that are offensive linemen.
Yeah.
I mentioned our fat men and how special they are in my heart. To win our 4th Navy game. So I take special care to make sure to give them props when needed. But Mike Johnson's, his first step is so quick. He positions his body position, his inside hand control. He moves people. To me, I think he's a very special offensive lineman. And then back to John Ratigan. He's great as advertised. 1 year he finally cracks into the starting role. He was everything that everybody raved about. And the most impressive thing about John Ratigan is before every snap, watch the calm. He is so in control of that huddle. It's not this hype. It's not let's go like a bunch of wild dogs, LT. This guy's in absolute control and puts himself in the perfect spot to make plays on the defensive side of the ball.
He's kind of, when he makes a play, a tackle for a loss, there's a little bit of a celebration, but he's the guy, let's get right back into our huddle and let's get after it. I mean, has there ever been a player at Army to have a first-year senior season like him in the last 20 years? I can't come up one off the top of my head.
It always does seem like they've got somebody who's going to come in and play linebacker and just be this amazing, outstanding linebacker that you've never heard of. They've been recruiting some amazing kids and obviously developing them too, which is also very hard to do.
I'll tell you the truth. If you're going to go back 25 years ago, my classmate, Brian Tucker suffered a pretty brutal knee injury. He'd played behind some pretty special linebackers at Army, in the form of, Kevin Zarnecki, Pat Work, Pat Zelli, all these guys that really had these, recognizable names. And when, it was his time to step up in the middle, Brian Tucker was a very special, underrated linebacker. Loved it. He had a nose for the ball. Out of Odessa, Texas, that's about as tough as you come. And he really was Texas tough and a really, really great ball player, square in the middle of our defense, making plays week in and week out.
Yeah, when you look at entering the season, I don't know, is John Ratigan a name that popped off the top? I mean, you read stories that he was at the bottom of the depth chart. Was he at the very bottom of the depth chart? I don't think he was, because I remember seeing him make plays in the spring And in the preseason of 2019, where he looked like he belonged on the field, he was just behind Cole Christensen, and some pretty good, and Eric Smith, two pretty good linebackers, So I think that, man, on special teams, he made plays on special teams last year. He was one of their leading tacklers. So, I just think and you know what? One of the absolute great dudes you're going to meet. I mean, when this is a personal note, when I announced that I was leaving paper earlier this month and I was going to, move on to other things, John Ratigan sent me a direct message thanking me for the coverage. How many guys do that? How many guys do that, And then I got an interview with him, I think the week before the Navy game, and it was just a great conversation, just a real as it gets. I think when you talk about John, he's just as real as it gets. He's a football player, but he's also a very good person, very real dude. And I just wanted to share that real quick. Just thought that that was something that I was getting a lot of like well wishes, and to have that from a Army football player was definitely honestly, it was a little shocking, but it was definitely also humbling, and just a great kid. Deserves the best. And one more ride for these guys now. One more ride for this senior class, and a chance to continue this great season and set some be known as a pretty historic team in Army history. Are they the team that broke the streak with Navy? No. Are they the team that won 11 wins and dismantled Houston? Maybe not, but this team will have its spot in Army history with another win on in the bowl game against Liberty. In the Liberty Bowl, against West Virginia. I got Liberty on my mind because those are some of the teams that were going through yesterday. So I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, guys, to think that now we're talking bowl game now after last night. So
thank goodness.
Just some final thoughts from you guys. Sorry, I went on a rant there. Sorry about
that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about the game. Happy that it's at a time and place that I'll be able to watch. Not in person, unfortunately, but what can you do? I'm excited to get back in the stadium in person next year. We let our season tickets lapse in the wake of the COVID fiasco, and I'm really excited to get back up to A-Lot and tailgate a little.
I'm looking forward to the bowl game personally. I think that after 24 hours of really messing with me, we're back on track. I'm in a good place. Just to let you know, everything is great again. But to me, is just another opportunity to win. It doesn't matter if it's first game or bowl game. Is just that opportunity to represent Army football in the United States Military Academy. It means more to these guys than a lot of players on other teams could express.
We'll wrap it up here. Dan, would you like to plug where we can find you and where we can read your stuff?
So, my name is Dano E. Cabeza, and I am the senior writer and now editor at As for Football. And you can find us at As for Football on Twitter or asforfootball.com on the World Wide Web. And I think our stuff is worth reading, humbly, but you may have a different opinion. If you hate us, definitely let me know. I love it. And send all of the links that you hate to all your friends so they can hate it too.
There you go. And you can follow us on we have our Twitter platform, Black Knight Nation. Follow me at Sal Internado. Like I said, we are on Apple Podcasts now, so you can give us a subscribe there and subscribe to us on YouTube also at Black Knight Nation. Guys, really appreciate the time tonight. Hey, we got another game to watch this season. Fired up, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about Army football again soon.
All right. Beat West Virginia.
Go Army.